So today we got a 72 BGT in for a little bit of attention that has less than 20,000 miles on it. So the story as I know it, and I know I'm missing a lot of details currently, is the current owner purchased it off the son of the original owner. And he says it is absolutely a genuine 19,000 mile car, because as he grew up for about 30 years, he only saw the car pretty much just sit in the barn and never get used. So this was purchased for his mom to go to college in, and after college, she really wanted a Mustang, bought a new Mustang and put this thing away, and for basically the next 30 years, it got little to no use. But at some point, the car was pulled out of the barn and was put back on the road. But we don't know what's going on with that or when that happened, because apparently him and his mom didn't get along the greatest, from my understanding of what was relayed to me. But hey, every family's got their issues, right? Now, I think there's more to the story than I'm obviously going to be able to tell here. And I think there's some interesting stuff and a possible factory anomaly with this car. But the current owner is going to do some research on that, try to compile the rest of the story, and we're going to pull a heritage certificate on it just to verify everything. And when all that happens, we'll probably try to get this car back in the shop and see if we can do the full story on it. But we do know from looking at it, I know that it has been painted since it was pulled out of the barn, and somebody had, whoever painted it, ended up doing some minor rust repair just to the bottom corners of the dog legs there, but he didn't do it properly. So we got a little bit of bubbling starting again, because all he did was covered it over, maybe with a little bit of body filler, and painted it. And that's what happens when you do it that way. Now, under the bonnet here, it does look like it sat in a barn for 30 years and is pretty much untouched. The current owner is going to spend some time really cleaning all this up and trying to make it look a little bit nicer at some point. But it's pretty well unmolested, other than the carbs have been off at some point and cleaned. Master cylinders were replaced and a new coil was put on. But other than that, and well, hoses and belts, other than that, it's pretty well untouched under here. It even still has the spare key still screwed to the inner fender wall here, where it never got taken off during dealer prep. It looks like somebody had started to try to take it off at some point and just stripped out the head of it, but whatever, you know, probably happened years later. My job is to go through the car for the new owner and make sure it is road ready, which once I got it here, I realized it's going to be a lot easier than I originally thought it would be, because whenever it did get pulled out of the barn, which we don't know exactly when, other than the last tag on it was 2019, and the tires are dated 2018. So somewhere at that time or before that was when it got pulled out. But they went through it and put calipers and rotors and pads and wheel cylinders, shoes, new gas tank, new exhaust system, all that stuff on it. So that will be a lot of what I would normally be doing on this. And if it was done anywhere around 2018, there shouldn't be a whole lot more to do other than maybe wheel cylinders in regards to like the brakes. And the fuel system ought to be pretty good. They put a new fuel pump in it, and it does run, but the clutch doesn't work. Apparently the hydraulics have given out, which is, it's been sitting for the last 5 or 6 years, not unexpected. But he said it starts on the key with no choke, but it doesn't run the greatest. But no oil. They're not going to run great like that. So it's obviously been richened up too much to get it to run without the oil in there, which is why it starts without a choke. So where I'm going to start to get this thing on the road, we're going to get some oil in the carbs and try to tweak those a little bit see how it runs, and we're going to go ahead and do a full hydraulic clutch kit on it. Now, it probably only needs a slave cylinder and nothing else, but for this owner, he'd rather just do it right the first time and not have to worry about it for a while. So we just got the whole kit and we're putting the whole thing in. So we got the car up in the air now, so I can start working on all the hydraulics here. Now, I feel personally it's easier on the chrome bumper cars to just take the starter off to get in here to take this apart, because it's way up right beside the solenoid and you can't swing a wrench on here, especially when doing the hose itself. Now, rubber bumper cars, they did move this bracket down some, getting it away from the solenoid a little bit, making it a little bit easier to do it. But it's actually a good thing we ended up taking the starter off, and I'll show you here on the workbench. So here we got the starter off the car, and you'll notice that this pin here that goes through for the pivot point for the solenoid is coming out. It's not even through the pivot itself, and I couldn't get the bolt out without actually taking it out. So now we can address this while it's off the car, whether that be putting it back in place and staking it again or putting a new starter on. We'll let the owner decide what he wants to do there. But with the mileage that's on it, the starters probably would be good still to just go ahead and fix this. So we have it up in the air. Let's go ahead and take a quick look underneath of it and see what it looks like. Now, interestingly enough, we notice these look like original rack boots here, which is really surprising. Now they are showing some signs of dry rot, but not as bad as you would expect, considering they're original. If they're not original, then it was been an awful long time ago since they were replaced, not when the car, and wouldn't have been when the car was put on the road last. Now that would make a good case for potentially going and putting a set on, because we know they're not going to last much longer. And even the boots on the tie rods are still intact, which is kind of surprising as well. But you can tell that the rack is leaking here. This is not so uncommon a point. These caps can warp a little bit and then they can drip here. And they will need some fluid put in it. I'm sure they probably didn't top that off when they put it on the road, since none of the grease points look like they were hit then. Moving back, it's got a, had they put a new stainless exhaust system on it, and they had actually put a new slave cylinder on it, but these things generally only last 4 or 5 years anyway, so yeah, it's due. Rust-wise, it looks really, really good. It looks exactly like you'd expect for the story that comes with the car. Now we do have on this side a little bit of rust right here. This is generally one of the places they'll start rusting at, is right in here, and then they'll work their way back across here, which it's starting to do. You can see some right here getting started. Because what happens is dirt gets up in there and it holds water, and everything's splashing off the tire here. So but that's not too bad. Of course, the transmission is covered in oil, because these things are a built-in oil leak at the rear main seal. They always leak, and it lets oil go back. But we will check the fluid in the transmission, make sure it is full. And even the mounts don't look terrible. This one's pretty soft though. But we probably won't mess with those because it'll be okay for now. But going on back here, it has had a line here replaced, probably when they put it back on the road, which is interesting that there, but. And it had a new cable put on it here, e-brake cable. And we'll have to double check, maybe make sure these are non-greasable ones. Other than that, it has all new hoses. We'll pull the wheels, look at the brakes, see what they look like. And it's had a brand new gas tank put in it. And we do notice here that the nuts on the straps here are backed way off, like they were going to replace them and didn't, or they started replacing them and for some reason didn't put the nuts all the way back on. Both sides are like that. So that's kind of interesting. We'll have to address that while we're in there. But overall, underneath, the car looks pretty darn good. We do have some rust here, which I already knew was in here. Because actually somebody had tried to put it on a lift and put the lift here, started crushing this a little bit, and then realized that wasn't a good place to put it on the lift. And that probably happened when they put the car back on the road, whatever year that was. This side looks a little bit better, but is starting to rust a little. But for an Ohio car, that's darn near considered rust-free. Well, I got that pivot pin back in the starter and staked it so it won't come out. Put it in place, it's working just fine. And we got the hydraulics for the clutch all put in and bled, and they seem to be working okay. We'll find out for sure once we try to put it in gear on the ground. But we're getting just about the right amount of movement. We did get the start, and it doesn't run very good at all. It appears to only be running off the front carb and not the rear carb. So I wound up taking these off and going through them, cleaning them, making sure everything's good to go on them. It probably needs some choke seals, whatever anyway. So we'll go through those real quick, and I will, because it's a new car to me, new car to him, and because of who it is, I will go ahead and do all the basics. I'll run a compression check on it, make sure it's good, which it should be if it's truly a 19,000 mile car, of course. But then we're going to check the timing, valve adjustment, and make sure the vacuum canister on the distributor isn't blown out. And once we got all those basics done, then I can try to properly tune the carbs, because all those things need to be right in order to get a proper tune on the carbs. I did go ahead and check voltage on it, and it is a little bit low at idle, but we're also idling a little low at the moment. So I'll reserve judgment on that until we get the carbs fully adjusted and get it tuned where it's idling where we want it. So I know we didn't get real detailed on any of the work we're doing on this car, and I have been thinking about doing a updated video on the clutch hydraulics that includes the master cylinder and not just the slave cylinder and hose. But there's enough going on in the shop right now that we just couldn't take the time to sit and do the video on that on this car. Now, the next video you watch may not be on this car because we're probably gonna have to order a couple parts for it and won't have everything in time to get a video together. But look for some more videos on this car coming up soon.